everyone, you're tuned in to the Maria Cozette Show. This is the Soussa Takeover. I'm your host, Christine Soussa. Stay with us. Hi everyone, we're back on the Maria Cozette Show, where this evening we have a very big surprise for you. Maria Cozette herself is our guest. Maria, thank you so much for trusting me to do a Soussa takeover of your show.
Oh my goodness, of course. First of all, I want to thank you because this is much less stressful than being the host, so thank you for taking on the burden. And I don't know who else I would trust to take this role on my set, and I love being a guest, so let's get to talking.
Well, awesome. Let's get right into it. First off, tell me a little bit about your background.
Yes. So my educational background, bachelor's was in sociology, and then I went on to pursue my MBA from Woodbury University that I thought, honestly, I would never do after doing my bachelor's because all I wanted to do was focus on my music, and my parents were like, no, you have to at least get a bachelor's degree. So I barely made it through my bachelor's, and I didn't think that I would go back for a master's. So after graduating, I focused on my music, I got into marketing, and then I was like, you know what, if I really want to kind of level up in my industry, which was healthcare at the time, healthcare marketing, I need to get my MBA. So I did that, and then afterwards, I launched my marketing consultancy firm because now I had more business acumen and skills. And then currently studying my doctorate at USC in organizational change and leadership.
So amazing. Before we get into that, tell me a little bit about how you got into TV. You have the first English-speaking TV show. So walk us through sort of the history of that.
I would love to. So that was in 2010, and I was inspired to do so because unfortunately our youth in America and beyond, just the diaspora in general, they do not understand the complexity of Armenian that's spoken on Armenian television, so they don't necessarily watch it. And so I was like, you know, why don't we have an English show on Armenian TV so that they watch it? And so I launched Music Box with Maria Cozette. It was much more energetic. I feel like I've matured as a TV host because Music Box was like very colorful. It was all about promoting the artistic and creative endeavors of, different people. It could have been producers, singers, whatever. And then we would air the latest music videos. And it gained quite a bit of momentum and popularity. So I was really proud of it. And it ran for about 6 years. So it was a long time. And then I stopped that. And then now here we are at the Maria Cozette Show.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like you've come so far, and we've watched you evolve as an artist and a professional on TV, which is a very, very cool thing to see.
Thank you. I think it's important to evolve as a professional, especially artistically. That growth and for your audience to see that is very important.
Now, how does it work with the TV show and being a professor and sort of your academic life? How do those complement each other and braid?
Yeah. I was like thinking of the answer while you're asking it. So I feel like my friends think I'm a little crazy for taking on all these things, but also I feel like if you're very passionate about a number of things, I like to call myself a multi-potentialite. And I have to credit that to a recent TED Talk that I watched. And it was like so on point. So when we're growing up, we're often asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And that question sometimes limits the child in having to choose one profession. And as you know, because you're also a multi-potentialite, there are a number of different things. Like I feel like there were more hours in the day because I want to pursue so many things. Unfortunately, in reality, you can't. But as much as I can, I try to kind of pursue the fields that interest me most. And one is education. I've always been a huge youth advocate, and with that, think that education is very, very important. The one thing, as my mom says, that nobody could ever take away from you. And so I'm teaching full-time now as a marketing professor at Cal State LA. I absolutely love it. It's the most gratifying profession in the world. When my students call me professor, like I almost want to cry every time. They don't know how much my heart flutters. Yeah. So I absolutely love it. I'm very passionate about it. My music, I would die if I didn't pursue that. just because I feel like I was just born to do that. Everybody has a purpose. Mine was in some way, I don't know, putting my music out there, I guess, I don't know. And then television, this is my creative outlet, and I interview people like you. You've been on my show about your creative outlet and all your philanthropic ventures, and then my other guests. So everybody has these different facets, sure. And it's amazing that one's creativity and their other side very much nurtures, their left side or whatever the case may be. So how do I find time for it? I don't know, but somehow it happens, and you do have to prioritize and kind of time management, all those things go into it. But I love everything I do.
No, I agree with you. I think time management, being exceptionally organized, is a critical skill set if we're going to be able to participate in various things and sort of give it our all. We have to stay focused and have the time and space for that. So I, for one, definitely appreciate that. What kind of guidance do you give your students, obviously as we go digital, but also any of the professionals that are seeking sort of your input and your guidance? And feel free to have a multifaceted answer, whether it's purely in terms of up and to the right and increasing revenue and branding, but also, maybe some of the darker sides, if you will, of marketing and social media, certainly on the younger generation, maybe pre-teens.
Yeah, thank you for asking that question, because I always say social media is not social. So the first tip that I would give is do not put your personal life on social media. And there's a certain psychology behind that too, because when somebody's sitting in front of the screen, they feel like they're the only person. It's just them and the screen. And I'm sure you've seen it, and a lot of people have, where people just dish out their dirty laundry on there. I would say social media is not social. And the second I would say is to try to utilize your platform to benefit something bigger than yourself. Represent something that's, benefits the greater good, whether it's you're involved in charity, whether it's just that you want your branding and your image to be a positive influence on people, because whether you like it or not, if you are building a strong online presence, there are a lot of people that are watching you and want to maybe follow in your footsteps or are inspired by you. And so it's very, very important to kind of keep your moral boundaries and don't compromise your values and morals just to kind of get ahead or expand your network. I think those are the two big pieces of advice I would give.
Beautifully said. I think that remaining principled and valued from a moral compass perspective is so critical, and sometimes we lose sight of that because, to your point, we think, oh, it's me and the computer, and wow, there's a whole infrastructure and back end and analytics and professionals and all sorts of stuff who exist to study this next digital wave of marketing and media and socialization and sort of how we put ourselves out there. So I would think your students are so lucky to have a professor that is mindful of all the components that go into what you teach.
Oh,
so that's amazing.
Thank you.
That's amazing. Stay with us. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back for the Soussa takeover of the Maria Cozette Show. Don't go away.
Lusniago tartatalum ochgerit mech Dam kitchebi do husad u verch Yes, I saw tono mem kezim seru heranum Im sertin I saw minar verke avelanum U im sera pokfashuri jurin man orodume nashnan kamut Oh kami pokilim se naran savi Eto hampurir bolok bat gerevetar roses in 99. It left the petals floating through my mind. He wrote a note after our first kiss. Said I never knew that I could feel like this. He was so perfect, I can't forget it. I'm far away from the woman I was. I'm far away, so far away. I'm far away from the woman I was. I'm far away, so far away. He gave me roses in 99. My heart was singing to a grand design. It was a long, long time ago. Who is this woman that I was before? I was so perfect, and I can't forget it. I'm far away from the woman I was. I'm far away, so far away. I'm far away from the woman I was. I'm far away, so far away. Who have I become today? See, the past is blowing away. Will I go or will I say goodbye? Yesterday. 거들었던 곳 어이게라 돌라 어나 바다르탑 شکر دانان قرق نوسوره یه وقت چالان رو بینیات دونه آخرین برم قرق نوسوره یه وقت چالان رو بینیات دونه آخرین برم رو به ما چند
We're back on the Soussa takeover of the Maria Cozette Show. So we talked about quite a bit of stuff in the first half of our discussion.
Yes.
I want to switch a little bit to talk about your music. I know you started singing when you were 4, which is amazing because as a mom with 2 girls, I don't even know how you came to realize at 4 years old that you had an amazing voice. So I'd love for you to maybe walk us through the beginning of your love for music, maybe highlight a couple of songs and bring us to where you are now.
Yeah. So it's my favorite thing to talk about, music. How did I start singing? So I literally, my aunt has this tape of when I first started talking. It's actually pretty annoying because it sounds like I'm singing. It's crazy. So I started singing when I was 4, as in my first performance was when I was 4, my preschool graduation, thanks to my first music teacher, Oyort Ani. she encouraged me, and then thereafter I was just always on stage performing. She would book performances for me, so on and so forth. It just happened that way. I don't know. Maybe I don't know how. It just happened that way. And I'm very lucky to have had supportive parents. I think that's very, very important for young artists, because when they don't have supportive parents, they're not able to, practice their art. And when you suppress something like that, it actually damages people. And I know a lot of artists that have wanted to sing or dance or whatever, their creative outlet is, but because they haven't been able to do it, it emotionally damages them. So I'm very, very lucky for that. And so after that, I always sang, throughout high school, elementary, just always singing. And one of my mentors told me, probably in my early 20s, that I needed to start songwriting. And so naturally the first 5-6 songs I wrote were horrible. They were very, very corny. I was like, I can never write songs. This is horrible, which goes to show you should never give up, because I just kept doing it. And then inevitably became, at the risk of sounding immodest, a good songwriter. And sometimes I even love songwriting more than singing. It's just amazing. And so I came up with my first album. My debut album was in 2005. Oh my goodness, time flies. And then my sophomore album a little after that. And then I came out with a lot of singles. And then in 2014, my third album, and then again a lot of singles. And my last release was beginning of last year. I think it was about a year ago. And that was Arthur Lao, which was dedicated to my grandmother, because she would always sing that song to me growing up. And so it was my own rendition of it, because it's known to be a little more, I think it's called Pomp and Circumstance, but this was a more somber rendition of it. And so otherwise, I've done remakes of O Kami Kami, and which is, of course, a pop classic written by Ruben Hafverdian, popularized by Harut Pambukchan. And then Adana was for 2015 Centennial. All my other songs that I write are in English. I can read and write Armenian, but it's just when it comes to songwriting, I can't. So all my other stuff is in English, and somewhere along the way, thanks to my producer that I would work with, he taught me how to produce music. And it's really important. What advice I would give to all artists is to learn different aspects of your craft. You may not end up being the best music producer or the best engineer, but it's important to know what everybody is doing when you're making your music.
Sure.
Yeah, so that you're aware of, what's a good mix, what about the mastering, and all the different elements that go into making music, because there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, I think it's very important to be a generalist in the little aspects.
Yeah.
Like you said, maybe not a specialist in everything, but to ask those questions, have the eye, have the ear, know the trends to make sure, you're producing work that you're happy with and that the audience can resonate with the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. And that actually reminds me of something my mentor told me, and it was one of the best things I've ever heard. So I know that we say jack of all trades. Sometimes that's not good. In this case, it is. But in other areas of your life, he brought up a concept that's called the T person. Mm-hmm. So it's having a breadth of knowledge, but specializing in one. And so, yeah, it kind of reminded me of that. I had to mention it. And shout out to Dr. Damon, because he's an amazing mentor.
It's interesting that you say that. We've been thinking and talking a lot at work and other conversations I've been having about this idea of being horizontal and vertical, kind of all at the same time, but then kind of like a network.
Yeah.
And having at least some level of understanding and all these different elements that can contribute to your work. It sounds like you were singing before you were talking.
Pretty much.
I was walking before I was crawling, maybe running. It depends who you ask.
Yeah.
And so I particularly like what you said about this idea of parents feeling like they have to mold their children versus what it sounds like your parents do. And what my parents did, and certainly what I aspire to do, which is to kind of have your children unfold and allow them to express themselves and navigate through the world, and not necessarily have, mold them to conform into something.
Right.
So I think that's amazing that your parents sort of saw that in you, and as a result, you're able to take on so much. So as we go into the new year, do you have any plans to release any new songs in 2020?
Oh, yes. Yeah, so I'm really excited because I haven't been able to release music in a while. Obviously, I'm going to school and I'm teaching and this lovely show, but I do miss my music, and I have been like nonstop writing. If you were to see my voice notes, it's out of control. So I do have a couple of songs. So I have like probably a library of like 60 plus songs, but not all of them are good, and nor do I want to release all of them. But there are some that I think are good. But again, I'm kind of biased because they're like my babies. I don't have children, but you know, my songs are my children. And so there are a couple of them that I've chosen, and then I'm going to be working with a couple of different producers this time, because in the past I've only stuck to one, or I've produced the music. And so now I'm going to be working with a couple of different producers, also ones from Armenia, also artists from Armenia that I'm going to be collaborating with. So a lot of really good and juicy, exciting things as far as my music is concerned in 2020, and I'm very, very, very much looking forward to it because I haven't made music in a while, and so yeah, I'm stoked.
So when you think about your music and what you're going to release, it sounds like there's going to be just this firework burst because you've maybe been not bottled up for a little bit, but busy, you know, developing other parts that you're involved in. So it's just kind of be a burst of music.
Yes.
When you think about it, is there a specific genre that, you know, are we to expect jazz? Are you looking at pop culture? Are you looking at, you know, this revival of old Armenian classics? Can you not share?
Yeah, no, of course. So I've always described my music as soulful pop. Because when you think of pop music, and not to kind of knock any other pop artist, but even for me, when I think of just pop music, there isn't necessarily a lot of substance there, because mainstream media and the audiences don't necessarily like, or not that they don't like music, but music is not necessarily popularized unless it conforms to like very simple and basic standards.
Yeah, like a silly kind of bebop.
Yeah, something everybody can digest. Yeah. So when there's a little more substance to it, I feel like it should be called soulful pop, which is my music. But next year's music is not going to be any remakes of existing songs, because I want to, as far as Armenian, I told you I don't write the Armenian music, but I am going to collaborate with Armenian songwriters, so it will be original stuff. And then, of course, my English stuff will be original. There might be some songs that are Armenian and English.
Kind of a mix. That'll be cool.
Yeah. So really, really good stuff. I'm very excited. And honestly, I'm not looking to become, you know, the next Lady Gaga. I adore her. But I'm not. I'm really not. And even like the word like famous or a thing, I don't necessarily like those things. It just happens to be that I make music and people like what I'm very much passionate about. And so I'm lucky in that aspect, but I'm not looking to blow up and be the next big thing. It's just that I have to do it. Like I literally have to release music for my own sanity. Just like I'm sure you have certain things that you know, feel compelled to do because it's in you and it needs to come out. That's my main form of expression. So yeah.
Well, you know, if you've been singing since you were 4, and it's certainly just part of who you are.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, as you continue and grow and evolve, then certainly you're going to bring all your crafts with you, including music and singing. So I, for one, cannot wait to help support your music, help, you know, put it out there to the extent that I can, but also listen to it and enjoy it. I think that the things that you're doing is absolutely remarkable. We need more people like you in the world. So when we think about all the different things that you do, is there any advice or guidance? I know throughout our talk, you know, you talk about never giving up, you talk about allowing yourself to explore and sort of be curious about all these other things that are of interest to you. You talk about, you know, light and all of these things. But as you think about sort of Maria Cozette tagline. Is there any advice or guidance that you like to sprinkle on the world?
Yeah. I think for anyone that follows me on social media knows that I'm a lover of quotes. I love them. But I think the one quote that kind of sums me up in a nutshell would be a quote by the illustrious icon Audrey Hepburn. And that is that nothing is impossible. The word itself says, I'm possible. And so it's very important for, aspiring artists in any profession. And I only say artists because the entertainment industry is extremely hard. And there's a lot of rejection involved. So you really, really have to be very tenacious. But for anybody to know that there are always challenges, but nothing is impossible, especially living in this country. There are so many opportunities. In fact, sometimes there are too many opportunities.
Right.
Yeah. So it's very important to kind of have that state of mind that anyone can do anything. Everybody has strengths. It's just a matter of cultivating those strengths, having good mentors. I know you serve as a mentor to many people, and so mentorship is very powerful. It's driven me to do so many things I didn't think were possible. And it's very important to have somebody to believe in you, sometimes even more than you believe in yourself. So that would kind of be what that quote really just sums me up in a nutshell.
Which is beautiful, and I like that you explained it with the importance of mentors, because sometimes, and I adore that quote as well, but with the rejection, with all the noise that happens in this world, sometimes it's difficult to lose sight of that unless you have mentors or close family and friends who can kind of keep you honest and keep you focused and help you recover quickly when, you are going through some of that tumultuous time.
Absolutely. So, yeah, that's always going to happen. But yeah, you're a leader in tech, Yeah.
Well, I cannot wait to hear your music.
Thank
I can't
you.
wait to do more things with you in 2020 and see how you continue to grow and evolve. I'm so grateful that you let me take over your show.
I love it.
And trusting me. But I think, the amount of things that you do as an artist, as a teacher, as a leader, as a community evangelist, it was really important that we put you in the hot seat for once.
Thank you,
and
Christine.
Hear about all the beautiful things that you have to say and kind of what we can expect from you going forward.
Thank you. And I really want to take this moment to genuinely thank you, not because we're filming right now, but because I'm actually very, very grateful that you stayed persistent. And I know you have a very busy schedule, but you were so adamant about doing this interview and giving me the opportunity to talk about my art and really how the concept of this show was born, in that it mirrors my character. I have all these facets, but there are so many other people that have all these facets. And so thank you so much.
No,
I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. I think you're awesome and you inspire so many people. So it'll be great to see, all the goodness that awaits.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Soussa takeover of the Maria Cozette Show. We're so grateful to end 2019 with Maria Cozette herself as the special guest on her show. Stay tuned for all the amazing things and several surprises of greatness in 2020. Happy New Year and blessings. That's a wrap.